Hey there, writing buddies. My name is Michael. Welcome back to my channel, Mr. Swaim. Today's video is going to be about writing styles, either plotter or pantser. The reason I want to talk about this is, number one, to help everyone who's watching my videos and listening to any kind of advice that I might give. They're going to understand where my writing style comes from and therefore where my writing advice comes from. But I also want to help anyone else who's never really focused on their writing style, who's never really thought about that. This video might help you understand what your writing style is and therefore what you can kind of like focus in on to make better, or what you can drop off and just forget about. What are plotters and what are pantsers? Plotters are going to be anyone who is actually like really focusing on plotting out their characters, plotting out the character arcs, the story, basically everything about their novel or whatever the story is that they're writing. They're plotting all of that out before they actually sit down to write it. For plotters, their biggest strength is that they are not going to have structural issues with their story, because they're doing all the stuff in like note-taking or bullet points or however they, creatively do that. Maybe they do like flashcards or they do a storyboard. I've seen people do storyboards before. If they do it that way, and they're going to basically be able to pick out where like structural issues are, plot holes, things of that nature. They're going to be able to find where those are and be able to correct them before they sit down to write the story. They're also going to be able to know what the character arc is beforehand, so they'll be able to make sure that they basically emphasize that character arc. Now, conversely, the weak side of that is that if they are writing a story, they are basically really stuck to what they've already plotted. If they're writing the story and then they kind of realize, like, as they're writing it, because it does look very different when you have it plotted out first and then you like take these notes and these summarizations and you actually put them onto an actual event. You're writing it down, you're writing how the event plays out. You might start to notice like some inconsistencies popping up at that stage. And once you have the inconsistencies on that stage, you might have to kind of adjust for that. The problem with plotting is that you don't have a good way to adjust, because when you adjust, you might have to adjust more than just that one thing. It could become a cascading issue. Now, a good example of a plotter would be someone like J.K. Rowling. Obviously, very successful, and the books were very well written, so plotting is very doable. Pantsers, on the other hand, like the extreme pantser, is just going to sit down, they're going to start writing, and they're just going to kind of like feel a story come to them. It might take a few drafts to kind of get it to go or whatnot, but they're just going to sit down, they're just going to start writing, and they're going to find that story as they write. Now, some of the downsides to being a pantser are going to be that you might have those structural issues. This could come in the realm of like a plot hole or maybe a deus ex machina instance. Usually what happens is that the writer is trying to up the stakes. They're trying to build and create more tension than what they previously had. And in doing so, they might introduce something that they've prior never like alluded to or made up. So it's just kind of just like shoves in out of nowhere that we didn't see coming, right? And if it's done right, it can be fine. But again, if there's no breadcrumbs for us to kind of like pick up on that sooner, then it usually comes out of left field. It doesn't really feel very good. Or the other side of that is that they introduced something that a few chapters ago, because they had just written it and they kind of already forgot about it, they might have something in the back that contradicts what they're now introducing, and you end up getting plot holes. A good example of a pantser is going to be someone like Stephen King. Obviously, very good books, amazing career. So no matter which one you're in, plotter or pantser, you're in good company. All right, so now that you know what a plotter is and what a pantser is, let's talk more about my writing style so that way you can understand where I'm coming from and how I can help you in your writing journey. Before we do that though, go ahead and hit that like button down below. It'll really help me out. I am what's called a plantser. It's a plotter and a pantser put together. I think I'm a little bit more of a pantser than I am a plotter, but still, I obviously do plot some in order to get some ground information going and also to kind of have a little bit of knowledge of where I'm going to be at the end. Now, this for me is very vital because number one, it does give me information on my main character, and it gives me information as far as where they're going to be at the end of the story. So that way I can make them however I want to at the beginning, but knowing where they're going to end up, that allows me to easily create a character arc, right? They're over here to begin with, they're going to end up here, gotta boop, make that, right? This also lets me know what my villain's doing, because since I know what my villain is going to be doing at the very end, like what they're trying to enact as their final plan to do dastardly deeds, it lets me know what they are attempting to finalize, but also lets me know kind of how long it took them to get there, all that kind of stuff. So I could, if I wanted to, write a companion novel basically that shows the villain side of things going through in conjunction with the hero side. This allows us to have really good tension, really good stakes, and just an amazing climax at the end of our story. Now, whatever the ending might be, we still have to get there, right? So while I'm writing my story going through, and again, I do have a few more plot points that I've loosely tied to my climax, so again, kind of a little bit of a roadmap, I now can focus in on the character development. Character development is one of the most important things when it comes to writing, and I think, in my opinion, I think that a pantser has a better, at least more enjoyable writing experience when it comes to character development than plotters do. Now, again, I've only tried doing plotting like a couple times and it just didn't work out for me, so I never tried it again. But for me, when it comes to writing characters, I do believe I excel at that. That's one of my biggest strengths, is making my characters different from one another and also have meaningful conflicts. See, conflict is the main juice of your story. Like if you don't have conflict going on, people are going to get bored, they're going to drop off, they're not going to care anymore. So that conflict is going to basically pull that reader through the entire experience that you want them to see your character grow and have that arc. And I really enjoy doing this from a pantser's point of view because, again, I get to kind of experience it as a reader my first time. As I'm writing it for the first time, it's all new to me. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? How is he going to deal with this? How is she going to react? That kind of stuff, right? I get to ask those questions and kind of wonder what's going to happen next. I believe that the most important conflict is really conflict of the heart in your main character. So yes, in my books, I have my main character up against dragons and wizards and whatever else, right? But the main conflict that really comes through and that also really pulls the reader along is going to be conflicts where he has to deal with something that he can't really punch his way through. He has to deal with the internal conflict. Remember that conflict is going to be just everything in your story. So make sure that you are, focused on that the entire way through as you're writing the story. Again, for me, I get to kind of experience it as I go along. But I'm always still looking for those places where I can raise the tension, leave breadcrumbs for my reader, and kind of foreshadow those events that I know are going to happen at the end. Now that you know how I write, let me know down in the comments how you write. Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Are you somewhere in between? What do you think? Join me next time for more writing tips. Until then, happy writing, happy reading.